Hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to start out by saying that this review will contain a lot of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, or if you care about being spoiled before seeing the movie, maybe you shouldn't watch this. I also want to say that I have seen most Resident Evil movies in the theaters, and I've been a fan of Milla Jovovich since the 90s. While that doesn't exactly make me a fanboy, it does make me the target audience for this movie. Usually when I watch a movie, the first thing I do is go on YouTube and look at reviews. I like to see what other people think, to see if they agree with me or disagree. I go on Internet Movie Database to see if people are posting threads about the same questions I had, or praising it for the same things I did. Most of the time, the critics aren't too far off. Like, Suicide Squad is a movie that I enjoyed, but I'll admit it has a lot of flaws, and the criticism that movie received was merited. It was pretty bad, even though I can still enjoy it. I think the bashing it took was deserved. But the bashing that Resident Evil The Final Chapter is taking, I think is a little ridiculous. I mean, people are giving it a 0 out of 10, an F-, saying it is the worst movie they have ever seen in their life, that it gave them a migraine, that it made them hate movies. It's totally over the top. And I think that on YouTube, these critics know that if they totally bash a movie, call it a steaming pile of shit, call it the worst thing since the Holocaust, more people are going to watch the reviews because they're going to give it a thumbs up, because the negative reviews are always funnier. I mean, I'll admit, I like watching negative reviews myself when it makes sense. Like, when a movie is really awful and somebody bashes it, yeah, it's funny. Like, the Triple Xander Cage reviews are hilarious because that movie is awful and the things they say about it is funny, you know. But I think on Resident Evil, they're being a little too tough, and I think it's because, hey, let's bash a movie because everybody loves those reviews. And yeah, I'm not going to pretend that this movie is like a masterpiece or anything, because there is a lot of stupid shit in it. Like, there's a part where Alice finally gets to use the motorcycle, right? And in order to start the motorcycle, she needs Dr. Isaac's thumbprint. So he's laughing at her, going, you'll never get to start it. And she just cuts his hand off with a big-ass knife, catches it, starts the motorcycle, and takes off. It was totally badass. You can hear people in the audience kind of like laughing and cheering when that happened. It was pretty cool. Then you see her drop the hand for some stupid reason so the zombies can eat it. And then it shows the bike stopped, her like looking over the city, and then getting back on the bike and riding off. The bike it's not like she left the bike on, because you couldn't hear the engine or anything. And that kind of shit is so dumb. Like, they set up, oh man, she cut off the hand. Instead of like wearing the hand as a necklace or putting the damn hand in her pocket or something so she can start the bike, she just throws it away. Stuff like that is stupid. Some of the characters they introduce in this, I mean, they are not even like red shirts. They're not even like real characters. They're basically people with guns, and they'll say a couple of things, but just a few words they say are so dumb that I'm like, you should have just had them standing there and not say a damn thing. Like, literally, like, there's one guy that for some reason is like, no, we gotta kill Alice, she's a stranger, and blah, 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 even though they just saw her, like, kick some ass, and somebody in their group knows her from way back and knows she kicks ass, and this guy is still all like, we can't trust her. I'm like, you can trust, Ali Larter's character, Claire, and she's, like, vouching for Alice because they have a history, yet you're about to shoot Alice in the face. Like, stuff like that is so dumb. Those characters were all stupid. All the new characters were stupid. So you really didn't feel bad for them when they died. Also, it's kind of dumb how they just completely ignore what happens at the end of the other one, where Wesker's on Alice's side, kind of, and they're going to fight this big battle on this huge wall. It seems to kind of like jump to after that battle, and a whole bunch of shit must have happened because now Wesker's a bad guy again, and it seems like they just completely ignored that. Actually, the way this movie looks, it looks like it's more of a sequel to Part 3, actually, because Dr. Isaacs is the bad guy in that one, and the look of this is like that one. It's kind of more brown, it's more like post-apocalyptic looking, it's not as slick with the blue colors and everything as some of the other ones. This one does look more like a continuation of Part 3. So the continuity from movie to movie, that's kind of non-existent, is another really dumb thing about this franchise. I'll admit that's also kind of stupid. Some of the religious aspects that they put into this, like Dr. Isaacs all of a sudden being kind of like a priest kind of figure, and when he's in the meeting, his whole reasons for ending the world, he wants to end the world because humanity is gonna kill themselves anyway through global warming and atomic warfare and blah, blah, blah. He just wants to get it over with because it's going to happen anyway. And he's going to get like all the rich people and all the, Umbrella Corporation and put them into like an ark where they're all cryogenically frozen. And once the zombies tear the world apart, he's going to spread an antivirus that's going to kill all the zombies, kill everything pretty much that's left undead, undead living in the real world. And then all the people that are cryogenically frozen are going to repopulate the earth, similar to the Great Flood and Noah's Ark. Okay, so I guess he thinks he's some kind of a godlike figure. It's kind of hammy. I guess you have to have some kind of reason for Umbrella doing all this, but the whole religious symbolism is kind of dumb. And then they even say like the Alice, the Red Queen, and the old lady Alice are like the new Trinity. Because, they reveal at the end of the movie that the Alice, the Milla Jovovich Alice, the main character Alice from the first movie on, has always been a clone. She's never been the original Alice. She's always been a clone of this little girl that had an aging disease. So her dad wanted to create the T-virus to try to help the little girl. And of course, it goes horribly wrong and it creates zombies, and it didn't even help the little girl in the long run because she's the same age as Alice, but she's like got the physical appearance of a 90-year-old woman. So Alice is a clone of her. The fact that she downloads her memories so Alice can have them at the very end, I thought that was kind of cool. But they do some religious symbolism with them, calling them like the Holy Trinity. But the way they do it was hilarious. Like Dr. Isaacs comes out and goes, "Behold, the Trinity of bitches." And everybody just started laughing because that line was so silly. It's like, really? You're gonna call this old lady this little girl, and Dallas are gonna call them bitches? It's so ridiculous that it was funny. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of dumb stuff like that if you really sit and think about, almost everything is kind of dumb. But you can do that with pretty much any movie. Like any movie, if you sit there and pick it apart and actually realistically think about it, they're all dumb. Like every single movie is dumb. That's why they're movies. They're like, there's nothing realistic really about them. Even the most realistic movies have some kind of questionable character motivation, something that's physically impossible. Almost all of them are like that. So going into this movie expecting this mind-blowing conclusion and this thought-provoking dialogue and like this Oscar-worthy acting is like watching a porn and then getting upset that the dialogue in between the sex scenes is awful. Or like putting in Schindler's List and then after it's finished going, well, that wasn't funny. It's not supposed to be funny. Like the porn isn't supposed to be thought-provoking. What this movie is supposed to be, though, is entertaining. And this movie was entertaining as hell. Not once through the 90 minutes was I bored or thinking it was moving too slow. The post-apocalyptic landscapes in this were some of the best I've ever seen, not just in zombie movies, but of any kind of, post-apocalyptic movies or TV shows. They really, really nailed it in this. Sometimes in zombie movies, it just looks like they evacuated an area, threw some trash around, and that's it. This world really looks like it has been trashed and gone through hell for a decade. Some of the creature designs in this were also really awesome. I mean, there's a part where Alice is fighting a goddamn zombie dragon. I mean, how awesome is that? When have you ever seen a zombie dragon? I mean, dragons are cool enough, but this is a monstrous, big-jawed, vicious-looking dragon that's chasing her, and it's just awesome. And the way she blows it up and everything is cool, too. The jump scares in this were effective. I mean, not all of them. There was maybe a bit too many, so by the end, the jump scares weren't really scaring you. But there's a part where she's drinking water, and all of a sudden, this grotesque-looking giant zombie just jumps out, and it literally made me jump in my seat. Like, it's a jumping zombie in a jump scare, made me jump. I was like, holy crap. And there was a few others like that. Some of them, not so much. I don't know if it was just because they weren't as effective or the first half of the movie kind of numbed me to it. So there was a little bit too many of them, but they actually did work. And a lot of people do like jump scares. Some people don't, but you know, it's still one of the most effective ways to scare the crap out of somebody, albeit in kind of a cheaper way. I do like that Alice didn't have superpowers. Almost nobody had superpowers except for the second version of Dr. Isaacs towards the end. That's supposed to be the original version, which I guess is okay. I prefer when these characters just don't have any superpowers because it just goes into like this weird realm of fantasy. But I guess it makes sense because he's supposed to be like some kind of CEO. And how can a CEO be so good at fighting that he can go toe to toe with Alice, who's basically, you know, engineered to be a fighter? So I guess that makes sense. He says, look, it's me, the original me, and I have some enhancements. They don't really explain the enhancements. They kind of show his eye, and he has some kind of like program in his eye where he can predict events and stuff like that. It's kind of dumb. But I guess him being a little stronger, a little quicker, has to be explained somehow. And I guess I prefer them to do that rather than him just being able to beat up Alice for some reason, even though he's like a CEO of a company, not some martial artist. But I do like how pretty much everybody else was normal and they do get hurt and they do get killed. In this one, Alice gets knocked out like a whole bunch of times. I mean, she takes a lot of hits. She's not as super powered as she was in the other ones. And speaking of Alice, Milla Jovovich still looks good. She's in her 40s now, but she looks like she's 31. So if the main reason you go watch these movies is to watch Milla Jovovich running around in hot little outfits beating things up, then yeah, she still looks sexy as hell. Even all dirty and bruised up and snarling, she still is hot. There are a few scenes in this that I know people are going to think are stupid or convenient. Like at the beginning, Alice just kind of walks up to this pristine BMW motorcycle that's just sitting there. It just happens to be sitting there. But of course, when she gets close, she gets ensnared in this trap and she's hung upside down and she's ambushed by Umbrella soldiers. And yeah, instead of just shooting her from a distance, they get close enough to let her kick their ass. I guess they were trying to take her alive. And the action is super creative. I mean, Milla Jovovich actually does look like she can kick ass. There are so many action heroines that sometimes to me don't look like they can kick some ass and they're just going through the choreography. Like Scarlett Johansson to me doesn't look tough. She doesn't look like she can really do that stuff. It looks like she practiced that choreography for a very long time. And her stunt double is also very good. And yeah, Milla Jovovich, in some scenes, it does appear that she does have a stunt double, but she actually looks tough. It looks like if Milla Jovovich punched you in the face, it would probably hurt. She's very athletic looking. She's not voluptuous. You know, she's toned and tight, and it really does look like she could punch the shit out of you. But getting back to these convenient scenes, there's also another scene where, you know, they're out of bullets and everything, and they're getting deep into the hive, and all of a sudden they just find a bag full of guns. It's just a bag full of guns sitting there. And, you know, they load up and now they got guns. And yeah, these scenes seem very convenient. But you gotta remember, this is a video game movie. And what happens in video games? You get a cutscene, you get a whole bunch of action. In between that action, you just randomly find stuff. You find ammo, you find health, you find vehicles. And that's the structure of this movie. There's a cutscene at the beginning that explains what's going on. You see Alice walking around. She finds a motorcycle. Then there's a whole bunch of action, you know, and then she'll find some guns. Then there's a whole bunch of action. Then there's like another cutscene. This movie is structured just like a video game. So if you're going to go watch a video game movie, you can't really complain about it being like a video game. And yeah, this movie isn't exactly like the Resident Evil games. It's nothing like them, actually. They probably could have called this something else besides Resident Evil and have Alice be the character and have the corporation be called something else that's not Umbrella. And most people wouldn't even realize it was based off of Resident Evil. It's so different that you could just change the names of all the characters and you'd be fine. But they called it Resident Evil, and I think a lot of people also hate on that because there's a lot of people that are really hardcore fans of the games that think these movies are an abomination because they're not like the games. But you let me know which video game movies that are exactly like the games have turned out all that great. The acting in this movie is way better than I expected. Ian Glenn is acting his ass off in this movie. He gives this material way more respect than it deserves. The dude is a professional. He did a very, very good job as Dr. Isaacs. Milla Jovovich, not the best actress in the world, but she's an action star. She has presence on the screen. You watch her because it's her. And I can't imagine another actress delivering the lines any better. The writing's not great. Characters will say, oh man, I should have killed you back in Washington or whatever. And she goes, yeah, you should have. And it's not the greatest writing, but the way she delivers them is really matter of fact and really how she would say it. It's not over the top punny, or anything dumb like that. She does as good of a job as anybody else could, I think. Ali Larter isn't in it that much, but you can tell she takes it seriously. She did a good job as well. Ruby Rose can't act really, but she's also really pretty. She's not in it that much. Maybe of all the new characters that are introduced, she's the one that is the most interesting, maybe. She does all right for what it is. And Ever Anderson is Milla Jovovich and the director Paul W.S. Anderson's daughter, which can annoy some people, It's nepotism at its finest. But if I didn't know that she was Milla Jovovich's daughter, I would have gone, wow, they really found a little girl that looks a whole lot like Milla Jovovich. I mean, she really looks like a Milla Jovovich that's 9 years old. I mean, really the genes passed on there. Sure, her acting wasn't great, but you never really see her. I mean, she's always in that kind of red queen deal, and she's supposed to be a program. So I guess the way that she delivers the lines makes sense because a program isn't going to be too emotive. But yeah, she might be a good actress someday. Maybe she should take some acting classes. I don't know. But I thought for what this was, she was good because the most important thing was that she looked like Milla Jovovich. She was able to read some lines off like a program would, and she did that all right. It was fine. Nobody else really has many lines in this to really call it, them acting. Wesker was barely in this. He says like the same line over and over again. And I'm kind of glad Wesker wasn't in this too much because I've always found his character to be really corny. Like the way he dresses with those sunglasses underground. Why are you wearing sunglasses? It's really dumb. So the fact they kept him at a minimum here was welcomed by me. So really, ultimately, I do think that Resident Evil, the final chapter, is a good movie, especially if you're already a fan of the Resident Evil movies. It's got tons of action. Even though the editing can be a little quick during the action scenes, it almost creates like a strobe light effect. You can still tell what's going on. I don't get the people that say, I can't even tell what's going on. I was like, you can totally tell what's going on. And the way it's done isn't distracting to me. I thought it was actually pretty cool. But yeah, lots of great action. The acting was pretty good. The visuals were good. I thought the special effects were good. If you want to go in and watch something kind of mindless with pretty girls and a lot of flashing lights and a lot of violence, this is a good movie. From 1 to 10, I would give Resident Evil, the final chapter, a 6.5. It's not a masterpiece, but it's definitely not a turd. And it's one of the better Resident Evil movies. Alright guys, thanks for listening to my review. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think below, and have a good day.